Welcome everyone to this episode of Smarter Social. I'm so excited to have the amazing Annie on today's show. We're going to go through how she has achieved such success on social media, all about her business and how you can get similar amazing results. So first of all, welcome Annie.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do, your business and who you serve?
Absolutely. I'm Annie Franceschi. I run a company called Greatest Story Creative, and I help coaches, consultants, and service providers get clear on your brand, your offers, and your systems so you can actually enjoy your business and have a little fun, maybe some Disney magic in there. I'm a former Disney storyteller. I've been a brand strategist for 11 plus years. I've written 3 books, and I'm the host of the Establish Yourself podcast.
Wow. Incredible. So, with your business model, what was the reason why you got into social media? What channel did you pick? And what was your main kind of goal for social media? Because a lot of people that are doing an amazing variety of stuff don't know where to focus, what to do, where to start. If you'd like to run us through that, that would be super cool.
Absolutely. As I mentioned, I've been in business for over a decade. And at the very beginning of my business, let's say, 2013 through 2016, I was like many of you, like burnt out on social media. And it felt like a big should in my business. And I would listen to like all the experts coming up when like Amy Porterfield was coming up and some of the Jenna Kutcher, some of these folks. And I would try what they taught and it didn't work for me. And so I got really burnt out on social media to the point that I was like, screw this. And I've actually grown a business outside of social media, with the exception of showing up consistently for credibility. So I was really excited to come talk to you because I have been a SmarterQueue fan forever, but not a social media fan. So SmarterQueue makes it really easy for those of us who feel like social media sometimes isn't worth all the time it can require. Like if you're literally pulling out your phone and trying to create content, it's exhausting. And I was doing that. I was doing that for Instagram, Facebook Lives. I'm dating myself. I just deleted all the lives. LinkedIn, Twitter, when it was Twitter, I was everywhere trying to do everything and I wasn't seeing the results. So I decided to grow my business the old fashioned way through networking, through relationships, and mostly through in-person speaking here where I live in North Carolina in the United States. And that worked very successfully for me. But what I knew was important was to show up on social and look like the expert. So when people did look me up, I was on LinkedIn or I showed up on Facebook, things like that. So that was the missing piece I needed. I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago, I discovered SmarterQueue and I thought it was bloody brilliant, to borrow a phrase from your side of the pond, because it allowed me to batch my content and put my social media on autopilot. The posting plan that SmarterQueue has is genius. And I teach this to my clients because most of my clients may be like you, that maybe you don't love social media or you've never really quite, it's clicked or feels like it's worth the time. What SmarterQueue does that is so smart with the name, right, is that it lets you recycle posts, run them in series. And that's how I've been able to show up on social media, but really only touch my content once or twice a year, delegate out to my virtual assistant, and just keep things running that I feel good about, but it's not my primary marketing channel. So, I've sort of come to love that. And in the past few years, I've doubled down personally on LinkedIn. That is the place I am most active, where you can find me. I have been marketing more, kind of catching you up to 2025. I need to load these into SmarterQueue and it's on my list for this year, but I have been running a weekly podcast. So I show up on LinkedIn like about twice a week talking about content related to my show for coaches, consultants, and service providers. But I'm your girl. If you're like, I've never gotten social media to work for me, I think SmarterQueue is the perfect tool to leverage social media without stressing and living on social media 24/7.
That's perfect. So you think that if you are working business to business, B2B, and you are wanting to do speaking events to really build your brand authority, you have books, you have a podcast, you are your own brand, right?
Yes.
That's something that's missed a lot is people think, oh, I just need to show up on social media. I just need to keep posting to Instagram and logging into Instagram. And, one day it's gonna work. But the way that you've done it is so clever because you understand the in-person connection and getting out there is so important. But then you don't want to be spending your time sucked in on social media. So congratulations for figuring that out, because it takes years. I think that other people that are watching that want to have speaking gigs, that want to write their own book, they want to become a brand of themselves to help businesses. It's kind of like a light bulb moment. And then you mentioned LinkedIn as well. So could you talk to us a little bit why you picked LinkedIn as opposed to maybe TikTok or, the next platform of the moment that keeps coming out?
Absolutely. And I think you've kind of hit on it a little bit that like what kind of happened for me is that everybody was trying to grow these online businesses. And so what happened, and I think still really exists in our local communities, our business, if you work with business owners, they're not being spoken to at the local level. One of my big pet peeves is I look people up on a website and I'd be like, they don't even say where they're based and they could be next door, right? And so I got a lot of opportunities because I was running in-person workshops for years. I'm very well known here in the Raleigh-Durham area of North Carolina because I was very visible running workshops. But I would then post about those workshops on social media and online so they can work together. And I think, yes, the frontier is TikTok and all of these exciting things, but often we forget about the old fashioned things. And I wrote an entire book called Establish Yourself, which gets into that. And I actually recommend SmarterQueue in this book for putting your social media on autopilot. But yeah, that's generally what I would say about this world is going back to LinkedIn and like why I've done that is I think it's you really want to be where your audience is, but also a place that you want to show up. So a couple examples, like for me, TikTok makes absolutely no sense because my clients tend to be a little bit older. They're coming out of corporate America. They might be, and they're often women, not exclusively, but they're often women in their like 40s, 50s, and even 60s. And they are not on TikTok. Actually, what many of them have in common is that they don't like social media and they don't like self-promoting. So a lot of what I work with them on is how to get clear on how to talk about what they do and what they're offering and talk about it more often on social media. And for them, the most palatable version of social is LinkedIn. And so LinkedIn just makes more sense. I am on Threads for my peers. I am on Instagram, just showing up as a person and a parent and someone who's just enjoying Muppet memes, right? But where I really post my marketing content is on LinkedIn because that is where my ideal clients are. And it's where I understand and actually engage myself. So that's sort of the Venn diagram is where clients are, a place you understand, and somewhere you actually want to post content and will do that. So we want to find that fit. And when you try to be everywhere all at once, nobody hears you, maybe not the right people, right?
You're 100% right. I completely agree. So focus on what you know and where your audience are. And then for people that are like, okay, but what do we actually do? Like, I know that I need to focus now to build my brand authority on LinkedIn. This is where my audience are going to be, or whatever platform it is that they know from
Yeah.
hearing. What would you say is the best kind of content to build your brand authority? How do you set up your LinkedIn, for example, to make sure that, okay, I have people that know who I am, but what kind of content are you posting? So like a practical tip for somebody that is listening that wants similar results, what would you say to start with?
I actually think you should take a step back because I think that this is kind of the problem with social media advice altogether is like, just post this or just post that. But the reason why you're always rewriting stuff is because you haven't taken a time to step back and go, well, what is it I really do? And how do I really talk about it? So I write brand voice guides for clients. And this is something you can do on your own, but you can also work with an expert like someone such as myself to pull the spaghetti out and get clear on like, what is it I actually do? Who is it actually for? And what do I talk about? What are the key stories? So when I work with a client, this is a practical tip you can take is you want to distill down to how do I say what I do? And what are the 5 to 7 kind of key story buckets I talk most about? For me, a couple of those are like the fact that I worked for Disney. Disney and the whole world of Disney is a big part of my brand. I almost always mention it. I mentioned it at the top of this conversation, right? So I talk about my experiences there. I talk about what I learned from the company overall, or that I just went down to Disney World. We were just talking about that, right? So that's one angle. Another story bucket is I talk about working and really understanding coaches, consultants. I worked with 400 plus coaches and consultants. I talk about that angle. Knowing what your kind of buckets are and the things that you're going to talk about consistently. I talk about simplifying and streamlining your business. That's a big part of my book. It's a big part of the angle of how do you enjoy your business more? How do you get clear on what you're doing? Figuring out what are those kind of, I always think about it like if you've been to New York City or you've seen pictures of it, the New York Public Library has these giant columns in front of it. So it's not like one story. It's like these like story pillars almost that have like infinite little stories within them. The Disney example I gave is a good one. So I could talk about something specific I learned on a day at my work at Disney. I can talk about going on a Disney retreat. I could talk about my favorite Muppet. There's all these different angles I could take, right? What they do great with customer service, something relevant to my ideal client, right? That sort of thing. So that's what I would say is like, I think sometimes we get this close to stuff. It's similar issues if you've been noodling your website and changing all the words on your website, or like, what the heck should I post on LinkedIn or Instagram, et cetera, is often if you're doing that, it's like you're trying to nail Jello to the wall. Like step back, stop dealing in Jello, like get clear on what it is you're trying to say and what you're not saying, who you're for and who you're not. And you'll have some sort of a guideline, a roadmap, a go-to memory jogger of this is what I am trying to say. And that's what I think brand copywriters, brand strategists, such as myself and others can help you do really well, is to get clear on what is your brand story. So you have this sort of touch point to go to, because I don't think it's a magic, write this kind of post or write that kind of post. I often think the confusion comes from, and I see this all the time in my world of coaches and consultants, a lot of people are out there talking about stuff and they don't even have anything for sale. So a big mistake I see with this advice of like, just post this or post these tips is that people never define what's for sale. They couldn't take on a client tomorrow. They never talk about their offers because they don't want to look salesy, but then nobody knows that you can work with them. So they're just educating the public for free. And those people are hiring other folks because the person posting isn't even talking about what's for sale. So I think to me, it's that social media problem is often a brand messaging problem. And that's the big takeaway there is like, if you're really struggling and constantly changing what you're saying on social, that might be time to step back and go, am I being clear enough on how I tell my brand story?
So if somebody is watching this now and they've accidentally fallen into the rabbit hole of educating the public for anything,
Been there.
we're sorry. And what would you recommend that they should do? Should they have like one call to action? Because they're probably similar to you. They've probably got a few offers going on.
Yeah.
So would you recommend to have like a one call to action for every kind of pillar, every kind of content pillar that you have? Or would you recommend just focusing down and doubling down on that one offer and testing that kind of like a science experiment? What has worked best for you?
I mean, I think it can vary, obviously. I think the bigger thing is to make sure you talk about what is for sale. Like sounds obvious, but the majority of my clients, and I've worked with hundreds of people and I've spoken for thousands, make this mistake. It's the people who are very not self-promotional, who don't talk about their work. And often they're not clear to the point that someone says, hey, can I work with you? They're like, I guess I'll put together a contract. Like they're not prepared. So I think having a defined offer is important. Talking about it's important. I don't think that there's like a magic. I know there's like an 80-20 rule, like 20% of the time use a call to action. My thing would be just to make sure that you are talking about your offers in most of your posts. It doesn't mean that you are saying, grab a call with me, but you might want to explain like, here are the results I get for people. Here are the transformations I provide. Here's why I love this. Part of making sure that people can work with you is, I know there's like the phrase of like always be selling, which I don't love. I always think about it as like always be inviting. So inviting people into your world, inviting people into working with you. I wouldn't say every post is book a discovery call or buy my program, but people have to understand what your program even is before they would be interested, right? So take different angles on things and making sure that at least, I would say even every other post, you're at least talking about what you do professionally, who it's for, names of offers, angles on those offers. And when you're running a launch, yes, you're going to offer the sales call or the apply now or whatever it is you're going to do. But I think the general rule of thumb is most people I know in my world don't talk about what they do enough and they don't connect dots. And that's what I'm encouraging is like, don't just educate the public for free, educate the public for free, but always tie it back, build a bridge back to an FYI, this is what I do can be an effective, end for a post. That's not salesy just to be like, and this is what I help people do. Shoot me a note if you're curious, like if you want to add that, or just like FYI, this is what I do. The next post might be about, and by the way, I'm enrolling, check this out, etc. So I'm not about not offering value, but when you don't connect that value to a way to work with you, people just go, that's nice. And they go work with the people who are not shy, right?
100%. 100%. And when you're posting to LinkedIn with these kind of posts, and then, oh yeah, by the way, enroll now, and just to let you know, I have this offer. How many times a day? So I know that people get stuck. There's like almost like a paralysis of, okay, how many posts do I need to do per day? What time do I need to post? Do I need to have certain hashtags on LinkedIn or whatever? What would you say to those people? What has got the best results for you? Or is it not even focusing on that?
Hey, you know, I am just not like, I am not a social media star. And I think that's why it's really interesting to have me on your show. Like on LinkedIn right now, I've got like 2,500 followers, and I've worked to grow that significantly in the past year or so. And been way more active there. But I'm not like the social media guru. Like I've grown my business to multiple six figures through relationships, through speaking, through the podcast, through all these pieces, this ecosystem that exists outside of social media in many ways. So I am not maybe the person that's like, this is the way to do it. I'll say that like what I've heard and what I feel like is to be true for me is to not see social media as like the place to be selling things for the first time. I think social media, something like LinkedIn and why I'm there is for discoverability. So embracing the fact that people are going to find out about me through LinkedIn. Someone's going to refer me. I'm going to get tagged in a post. So they're going to first discover me. I'm going to mostly sell and make sales through my email list, which are people who really like what I do, have opted into a freebie I have, think I'm interesting, etc. So I put less pressure, and I have seen less results on like the sales posts on LinkedIn. I still put them up, but I'm not posting like 3 times a day, like buy my thing. I don't even think that that's the right tone for LinkedIn. And I'm also about building those relationships, right? So I don't want to exhaust people. So if I frame it as LinkedIn is my place to build relationships, offer value, and not forget to connect the dots between the value and how I can offer more personalized value, then I'm doing a good job. And then the accountability for me is when I'm running a campaign, like I'm doing a week long, hey, I'm selling my package your process accelerator program. I owe it to myself and to others who might find it valuable to talk about it. And I might post once a day for a week or something like that. But even that feels like a lot to me, mostly because I don't get my act together. I will email my list probably once a day, but again, that will also be for like a week, right? So I think you've got to find kind of what works for you. There's always going to be experimentation. If one expert says is the only way to do it, they're lying. It's not true. Because as sure as they might even be right today, tomorrow the algorithm's going to change. It's all going to change. So I prefer business to rely on relationships, to rely on kind of old fashioned ways of connecting human to human. And so I think I kind of have a low stakes view of social, especially of like LinkedIn, just being like, hey, I'm there to make sure that I call it like my 3-step visibility plan. Make sure everybody knows what you do, who it's for, and how to work with you. That's what I'm doing. I'm providing value around that, but that's it. And if I do a good job of that, people will hop on my list. They'll show up in my messages. They'll want to work with me. And that has served me to the tune of 6 figures in a business I love that like I have a profit margin. I don't work all the time. I take December off. I don't have full-time employees. Like to me, that's way better than making $1 million and spending 990,000 and a bunch of stress and time and employees to get there, right? So that to me is how you can kind of have the best of it all. And I think SmarterQueue has helped me really show up for that, to be able to confidently know if someone looks me up on LinkedIn, I look good, but I'm not stressing it. I don't have to be the master social media maven because of tools like it.
This is so reassuring because I think it's a modern day dream right now for people to have a multi 6-figure business, to not have an office with hundreds of employees that they need to manage, the payroll, the admin, to actually set up something that they're truly passionate about. And you can tell in your voice and the way that you're presenting this is like you really care about what you do and you're really invested in it and you love it. And I think that feels like such a faraway goal for people. And
Yeah.
LinkedIn, your LinkedIn presence to just continue to build that like authenticity, the credibility, I'm in business, I'm working is so vital because even from a really different type of business, we at SmarterQueue, we have a software with thousands of customers. And before I joined, we actually stopped posting on I think it was Instagram for a few months. And the people that I was reaching out to for partnerships, they're like, yeah, but you're not in business anymore. I mean, we're in
Yeah.
business.
No, we're right here. Yeah.
weren't, but that's that, but you would never have, unless I was out there like talking to these people in real
Yeah.
life and most of them, I would have never known that they were hesitant to even try us because they just thought because we didn't post on social media for a little bit that we'd gone under or something, you
So
know?
you wanna look like you're alive, right? That's
Oh,
the most
yeah.
relatable thing I've learned about SmarterQueue is that even SmarterQueue went a few months without
Yes.
posting, but, we've all been there, right?
Exactly, exactly. And you can take the time off as well and not have to worry that, your LinkedIn is going to go down or the traffic is going to go down or inquiries are going to go down because it's already set up and it's already automated.
Yeah, absolutely.
So much easier. So, if people want to connect with you, Annie, what is the best place to find you? And tell us everything
All the
where we can
things.
look. Yes.
Yes, so you can find me at greateststorycreative.com. I have a podcast called the Establish Yourself Podcast. It comes out with weekly episodes. So if you love what I was saying about getting clear on your brand offers and systems, come listen, come hang out. Find me on LinkedIn. We'll make sure you guys have the link. And also, we talked a little bit about my book. And I think that you've mentioned throughout, like, well, how do you do this? And how do you build a business you love that loves you back? How do you not live on social media, leverage tools like SmarterQ? I wrote a whole book about that called Establish Yourself. And I'm only mentioning it because for SmarterQ audience, we are going to share the first chapter for free. So if you would like to grab the first 50 pages for free, we will send you the link here wherever you are watching this. I'm sure Emma will make sure it's included, but feel free to check that out because I want you to have the resources to grow. And I think there aren't enough books and resources and even podcasts that talk about this idea of how to not just add and add and add, but to simplify and to have more fun in your business and to not live on social media, which I think SmarterQ does a great job of giving you your life and your business back in that way. So if those things resonate, feel free to enjoy, first of all, Smarter, but also a free chapter of the book that you can throw on your Kindle or your e-reader, whatever feels good for you. But that's where to find me. And you can also grab a free consultation with me if this got you thinking about, well, shoot, I don't know how to talk about what I do or what I sell. I help people package their process and get clear on how to tell your brand story. So if I can be helpful, don't be a stranger. And like I said, come find me on LinkedIn.
And also, if there's anyone that's listening, it's like, okay, I want to try SmarterQ. I want to build a six-figure business. I don't want to be on social media all of the time.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to share on the screen now a special link. So if you sign up with that link, this is Annie's referral link. And what that will do is it will give you a 30-day free trial of SmarterQ. If you go and sign up directly with us, it's only 14 days. So sign up with that link. Make sure that you do. You get 30 days for free. You'll get a free onboarding call. You'll get a free migration call if you're trying out another social media management tool. Like, I actually want something that's a bit more hands off because a lot of them don't have the features like the Evergreen recycling. So you can kind of step away and you'll also get a free social media strategy call. So definitely check it out. Go to Annie, download the book. I cannot wait to read this book as well. I'm going to be like reading it too. And thank you so much. That was incredible and really, really helpful. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.